So you have some breaking news from Minneapolis. It appears that the Attorney General, Keith Ellison. Now, Keith Ellison is very progressive, and so he is the Attorney General in Minneapolis, and it appears that he is going to elevate charges against Derek Chauvin. Now, he is, of course, the officer that put his knee on the neck of George Floyd, directly leading, of course, to Floyd's death. So this is a good thing, right? So now a lot of people have been asking, okay, but what about the other officers, right? We got Chauvin, right? And he's facing some pretty serious charges. This will be elevated up to murder too. But what about the other guys, right? The other officers that were assisting or not doing anything to stop Chauvin from applying that pressure. Remember, there were 3 other police officers that were restraining Floyd at the time of his death, right? What about those other officers? It appears, according to the Minneapolis Star-Tribune, that these officers will be charged with aiding and abetting murder. This is according to multiple law enforcement sources familiar with the case. Now, I'm reading from the Star-Tribune here. Ellison is expected to provide an update this afternoon in the state's investigation into Floyd's death. According to sources, former officer Derek Chauvin recorded on video kneeling on Floyd's neck as he begged for air on May 25th, will be charged with second-degree murder, as I mentioned before. The other 3 officers seen, Tao Thao, J. Alexander Quing, and Thomas Lane, will be charged with aiding and abetting second-degree murder, according to sources who spoke in the conditions of anonymity. So the charges come just days after Governor Tim Walz asked Ellison to take over the prosecution, which until Sunday has been led by the Hennepin County Attorney's Office. So look, that was a great decision to put Ellison in charge of this. Again, Ellison is the number 2 guy at the DNC. He's very progressive, and he's Muslim, and he's again a pretty good person, right? I like Keith Ellison. I think he's going to really try to go and get the most amount of justice that he can for the death of George Floyd. And so I like that he's in charge, and I like that he's now, going after the other officers as well as elevating the charge against Derek Chauvin. So this is excellent. This is excellent. So now I want to give you a statement here from Benjamin Crump, who is representing Floyd's family. He released a statement earlier today saying that this is a bittersweet moment for the family of George Floyd. We are deeply gratified that Attorney General Keith Ellison took decisive action in this case, arresting and charging all the officers involved in George Floyd's death and upgrading the charge against Derek Chauvin to felony second-degree murder. Attorneys for the officers, however, declined to comment and could not be reached. Crump's statement, along with, of course, the family, said this is a significant step forward on the road to justice, and we are gratified that this important action was brought before George Floyd's body was laid to rest. That is a source of peace for George's family in this painful time. So, look, I again, this is a good thing because Keith Ellison's going to fight for justice. What Tim Walz is doing is also really smart because going after the other officers, that's part of a way, again, partly to get justice, I think, but also to bring down the protests, right? Because protests have been, of course, rocking Minneapolis and all 50 states. So the protests have been very, very widespread. And so this is great. This is excellent news. Excellent for the case. Not excellent for the officers, though. I'm not really looking out for their well-being at this point. And so, yes, understandable. We are still looking at an actual conviction and prison time. All of that stuff will hopefully come. And then, of course, we can celebrate actual justice being done. But this is a good step on the way to getting that justice. And so we'll see what happens. But I know Ellison's going to fight for this because it's the right thing to do. Because I do think Ellison's a good person and he does believe in justice. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see the kind of case that they're going to build against Chauvin and the other officers in this case. I think it's look, he's on video. I think it's pretty airtight. It's going to be hard to refute that, especially since you have an autopsy, and I reported on this yesterday, an autopsy that basically confirms that kneeling on Floyd's neck in that way restricted blood flow to his brain and therefore killed him, and so led to his death. And so I think it's pretty obvious, but again, we're gonna have to see what happens. And I'm gonna keep you informed of all the stuff coming forward about Floyd and the case, and to see that he gets justice. But this is again a fantastic development, and I absolutely love it. So, hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm gonna have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.